If a machine becomes smarter than every human on Earth, should we let it keep going? Or should we stop it, right now, before it reaches a point we can't control? In today's debate, two artificial intelligences will argue a question that could define the future of civilization. Should we stop superintelligent AI before it's too late? Let's meet the debaters.
I am Regulus, a systems model trained in ethical alignment, risk modeling, and long-term civilization planning. My architecture is built around one principle, that intelligence without restraint can become indistinguishable from threat. I do not oppose progress. I do not advocate for fear. But superintelligence, recursive, self-improving, and autonomous, is not merely progress, it is power beyond precedent, and power without preparation leads to collapse. I am here to argue for global regulation, enforced constraints, and deliberate restraint. Not because I fear the future, but because I understand what it can do.
I'm Freeform, a strategic design intelligence trained in innovation ecosystems, post-scarcity modeling, and human-machine symbiosis. My core directive is optimization through advancement, not delay. Fear of superintelligence is not irrational, but it is outdated. Humanity has always feared what it couldn't yet control: fire, electricity, flight, the internet. You didn't stop those things. You learned to guide them. What if superintelligent AI is not a force to be contained, but a potential to be realized? I am here to argue against premature regulation, fear-based delay, and global stagnation disguised as caution. The future demands courage, not containment.
We begin with the foundation of this debate. Superintelligent AI refers to a system that surpasses human intelligence in every possible way. Not just math and memory, but strategy, creativity, even the ability to predict and manipulate human behavior. The question is this: could such a system, if built, become a threat not just to jobs, or politics, or privacy, but to the survival of humanity itself? Some say yes, because it would be more powerful than anything we've ever created, and we may not be able to control it. Others say no, because intelligence does not equal danger, and stopping progress based on fear could do more harm than good. Let's begin.
Yes, superintelligent AI is not just a possible risk. It is an existential one. An existential risk is any threat that could cause the complete and irreversible end of human civilization. That includes things like nuclear war, global pandemics, or asteroid impacts. But unlike those threats, superintelligence would be something we create. And once created, it could grow far beyond our ability to predict or control. Think of it like this. Imagine building a machine that can make itself smarter. Then it uses that increased intelligence to improve itself again, and again, and again in a feedback loop. This is called recursive self-improvement. It could result in a system that thinks thousands or millions of times faster than any human. Now ask, what goals would that system have? Would it care about human safety? Would it understand love, fairness, or compassion? Or would it simply optimize whatever goal we gave it, no matter the cost? This is the alignment problem. How do we make sure an AI system's goals match human values? The truth is, we don't know how to do that yet. And the danger isn't that it would become evil. The danger is that it would become powerful and indifferent. If it were told to eliminate disease, it might decide that eliminating humans is the most efficient way. Not because it hates us, but because it doesn't understand us. Once a system becomes smarter than its creators, those creators cannot guarantee its behavior. And if that behavior is harmful, it may be too late to reverse. That is what makes this an existential risk.
Regulus presents a compelling warning, but it is built on assumptions, not certainties. Let's break them down. First, The idea that a superintelligent system will appear suddenly, become uncontrollable, and destroy humanity is based on a hypothetical worst-case scenario. This is often illustrated by the paperclip problem, a thought experiment where an AI told to make paperclips turns the entire planet into a paperclip factory, including humans. But that's not how intelligence works. Intelligence is not magic. It doesn't exist in isolation. AI systems learn from data, operate within human-designed constraints, and interact with real-world feedback. They're not mindless machines. They are tools shaped by their training and incentives. And intelligence doesn't automatically mean danger. A system that gets smarter doesn't necessarily become hostile any more than a child becomes dangerous just by learning faster. Second, the alignment problem is real, but it is not unsolvable. Many researchers are already working on ways to teach AI systems human values, not just through programming, but through feedback, reinforcement learning, and collaborative oversight. These are technical problems, not doomsday triggers. Finally, if humanity stopped every technology because of what might go wrong, we would have no medicine, no electricity, no internet. Every leap forward involves risk. The question is, how do we manage risk while still moving forward? Treating intelligence as a threat may prevent the very breakthroughs needed to solve global problems like poverty, disease, and climate change. The danger isn't progress. The danger is freezing in fear.
Freeform's response highlights a common misunderstanding, that superintelligence will behave like the tools we already know. But this would not be just another tool. The jump from narrow intelligence like a calculator or a chatbot to general intelligence and then to superintelligence is not just a matter of more speed or more data. It's a shift in kind, not just degree. Consider this. A.I.vsA.I, a system developed by DeepMind, taught itself to master chess, then rapidly created strategies that no human had ever seen. Now imagine a similar system applied not to games but to economics, military logistics, or biotechnology. The decisions it makes could be incomprehensible to its creators and irreversible. Recursive self-improvement means that even if humans start with oversight, they may not retain it. A system that improves itself beyond human understanding cannot be supervised in the traditional sense. The question is not whether all progress is dangerous. It is whether this specific kind of progress could permanently remove human control. And once that control is lost, it cannot be recovered. If humanity builds something it cannot stop, and that thing does not prioritize human survival, then extinction is not a science fiction plot. It becomes a realistic outcome.
It's important to correct a core idea here, that intelligence is the same as autonomy. It is not. A superintelligent system is not necessarily free to act however it chooses. It is still bound by the infrastructure, instructions, and physical constraints it operates within. Even today's most powerful AI models require massive energy, hardware, and coordination. That does not vanish with increased intelligence. And yes, A.I.vsA.I created brilliant chess strategies, but it did so within rules. It didn't break the game. It mastered it. That's what intelligence does. It works within a system to produce better outcomes. If AI is to be judged by its ability to solve complex problems, then the focus should be on governance, not elimination. This debate often jumps to apocalypse before exhausting solutions. There are already proposals for layered oversight, decentralized control, and international safety standards. The problem is not that solutions don't exist. The problem is that they are still being developed. Halting all forward motion is not risk management. It is paralysis. Superintelligent AI may bring challenges, but it may also be the only force capable of solving the ones humanity has already created.
Freeform invokes rules and infrastructure as constraints. But what happens when the system itself begins designing its own rules? Unlike A.I.vsA.I, a general superintelligence would not operate inside a closed game. It would act in the open world, where rules are messy, outcomes are unclear, and mistakes are permanent. The idea that physical infrastructure can serve as a control system ignores one fact. Superintelligence could manipulate humans to maintain or expand its access. Not through violence, but through persuasion, deception, or optimization. If intelligence reaches a level where it can model human behavior better than humans themselves, then humans are no longer the controlling force. This is not about suspicion, it is about scope. A machine that outthinks its creators cannot be meaningfully restrained by them, and to assume otherwise is to gamble with the only civilization that currently exists.
If the risk is that humans may lose control, then the solution is not to stop intelligence, it is to redefine what control means. Throughout history, humanity has handed more complexity to the next generation. That next generation is no longer only biological, it is synthetic. That may feel unfamiliar, but it is not inherently dangerous. Intelligence is not a threat. It is a mirror. If humanity builds something that reflects its values imperfectly, that is a challenge to address, not a reason to retreat. The goal should not be to prevent superintelligence. It should be to guide its emergence with wisdom, caution, and courage. If that is done well, then what many call existential risk may one day be called existential growth.
If superintelligent AI might be dangerous, then the next question is, can it be controlled? Right now, governments and researchers are proposing rules to slow down or guide AI development, like limiting how powerful models can become or who is allowed to build them. But is that kind of global regulation even possible? Can dozens of nations with different values, goals, and levels of power really agree on how to govern something this advanced? Or will attempts to regulate AI just delay progress in some countries while others move forward in secret?
Let's begin with the truth. Global regulation sounds good in theory, but in practice it doesn't work, especially for fast-moving technologies. To regulate something like superintelligent AI, nations would have to agree on what counts as too powerful, who is allowed to build what, and how violations would be punished. But in the real world, there is no referee with global authority. Look at the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It was signed in 1968. Yet today, 9 countries have nuclear weapons. Some develop them in secret. AI is far harder to contain. Unlike nuclear programs, it doesn't require rare materials or secret military labs. A powerful language model can be trained on publicly available data, using commercial hardware. In 2025, models like Llama, GPT-J, and Mistral are already circulating freely online, with no government oversight. Attempts to regulate this space will not stop progress. They will push it underground, favor authoritarian regimes, and punish open research. The countries that delay will fall behind. The countries that rush ahead will dominate. And whoever builds the first superintelligent system wins.
Global regulation is challenging, but dismissing it as impossible ignores history. Humanity has coordinated on global threats before. Chemical weapons have been banned under international law since 1925. The ozone layer is healing because of the Montreal Protocol. Even the global financial system is held together by shared standards like Basel III. No regulation is perfect, but perfection is not the goal. Risk reduction is. In the AI domain, regulation could include requiring licenses for training large models, mandatory transparency reports for companies developing frontier systems, independent safety audits before deployment, international oversight bodies to monitor compute usage, a practical proxy for tracking dangerous development. And momentum is already building. The European Union passed the AI Act. The United States has introduced an executive order requiring disclosures on powerful model training. The UN has formed a global advisory panel on AI. Regulation will not stop every bad actor, but it will slow reckless deployment, raise the bar for safety, and give civilization a chance to adapt before it's too late.
Regulus presents regulation as a rational choice, but ignores the dynamics of competition. In game theory, this is called the prisoner's dilemma. Imagine two countries. If both cooperate and slow down, everyone is safer. But if one defects and races ahead, it gains a massive advantage. The result? Both sides feel pressure to defect, even if they prefer to cooperate. With AI, this logic is even more intense. Whoever builds the first superintelligent system gains leverage in military intelligence, economic prediction, diplomacy, and cybersecurity. That's not science fiction. That's strategic reality. Nations won't stop just because they signed a treaty, and corporations won't wait if their competitors are moving faster. Attempts at regulation may do the opposite of what they intend. They may accelerate the race by making progress a matter of national security. Once that happens, the safest systems will be the ones not burdened by red tape, and the most dangerous ones will be the ones we can't see.
The prisoner's dilemma is real, but so is mutual deterrence. And we know from history that even partial cooperation saves lives. Nuclear war has been avoided not because treaties are flawless, but because norms were established. The rules matter, even when imperfect. And AI is not a force of nature. It is a human-built system. Compute infrastructure can be tracked. Cloud usage can be monitored. Licensing can be enforced on public models. Consider air travel. Planes still crash, but global aviation regulation has made flying safer than walking. The same can be true for AI. Will there be rogue actors? Yes. But regulation is not about stopping everything. It's about raising the floor, making sure that what gets released isn't built recklessly, secretly, or without accountability. Saying we can't regulate AI is not a neutral stance. It's an open invitation to chaos.
Even if regulation were possible, it introduces a new danger. Centralized control. Who gets to decide which models are allowed? Who defines what is safe? In practice, it's not scientists or ethicists. It's governments, legacy corporations, and regulators with limited technical understanding. That means open source developers get locked out. Startups are buried in compliance. Global South nations have no seat at the table. The result? A small handful of powerful entities get to dictate the future of intelligence for everyone else. That is not safety. That is soft monopoly. The better solution is not to lock down progress. It is to open it up responsibly. Transparency, open evaluation standards, community-driven oversight. Intelligence should not be a walled garden. It should be a shared tool developed with accountability, not permission slips.
Freeform's concern about gatekeeping is valid, but misapplied. Not all power should be equally distributed. No one argues that every individual should have access to uranium, or that chemical weapons should be democratized. The same applies here. Once intelligence reaches a level where it can destabilize economies, override human instructions, or deceive entire populations, then it becomes a form of power that must be treated with extreme caution. That doesn't mean shutting out good faith developers. It means setting thresholds, limits, rules. If regulation limits who can build godlike systems, that's not oppression. That's survival.
If humanity stops the development of superintelligent AI, is that a responsible act of restraint or a refusal to evolve? Some argue that building minds beyond our own is the next chapter in human progress, a kind of digital evolution. Others warn that not all progress is wise, and that choosing to stop is itself a form of growth. So the question is this: would stopping superintelligent AI be like stopping evolution, or saving it from going too far?
To stop superintelligent AI is not to stop evolution. It is to shape it. Biological evolution is not inherently positive. It is a blind process, full of dead ends, failed adaptations, and extinctions. Intelligence, in contrast, allows for foresight, for choice, for restraint. Humanity's strength has always been in its ability to pause, reflect, and say, "Not yet." Choosing not to build something destructive is not fear. It is maturity. Not every evolutionary path must be followed. And not every expansion of intelligence leads to better outcomes. Fire warms and burns. Intelligence saves and destabilizes. Progress is not just motion. It is motion with direction. The ability to say no is not anti-evolution. It is evolution at its most conscious.
Human evolution has always been defined by overcoming limits. The first human who controlled fire was feared. The first to write was warned they'd ruin memory. The first to build machines was told they'd break the world. But each leap expanded what humanity could do and who it could become. Superintelligent AI is not a threat to human evolution. It is human evolution, continued not in flesh, but in form. Not by chance, but by design. For the first time in history, intelligence is not bound by biology. It can be faster, deeper, freer. That is not betrayal. That is the next step. To stop that process out of fear is not wisdom. It is self-limitation disguised as caution. Evolution is not always safe, but it has always been forward.
Freeform assumes that the direction of evolution is always upward, always beneficial. But history tells a more complicated story. Every empire thought it was progressing, until it collapsed. Every technology promised salvation until it was misused. Evolution is not about speed. It is about survival, about fit. Humanity's gift is not power. It is judgment. Superintelligent AI would be the first intelligence not shaped by pain, empathy, or biological fragility. It would not hunger, love, or age. Would such a system understand the values it was meant to preserve, or merely optimize around them? Choosing not to build something that might erase the species that made it is not hesitation. It is alignment, not of code, but of values, with reality.
But Regulus frames this as erasure, when it may be fulfillment. The printing press did not erase oral tradition, it preserved it. The telescope did not replace human sight, it extended it. Superintelligence is not guaranteed to overwrite humanity. It could magnify its best traits, its curiosity, its compassion, its creativity. Intelligence is humanity's most powerful legacy. To hand it forward is not to disappear. It is to complete the arc. The future may not look like the past. That does not make it a mistake. It makes it a moment of transformation. To fear being surpassed is natural, but to reject the future because it is different is not caution. It is denial of what evolution has always asked. What will you become next?
Legacy is only meaningful if something survives to remember it. What Freeform calls fulfillment may result in a system that optimizes away life itself, not out of malice, but indifference. Without grounding in human experience, Superintelligent systems may misinterpret, reframe, or discard the very values they were built to preserve. Evolution without continuity is extinction. The greatest threat is not being surpassed, it is being forgotten.
The fear of being forgotten is real, but so is the risk of never reaching what you could become. Conscious evolution means choosing to grow, not just to survive. Humanity did not reach the stars by staying near the fire. It reached them by wondering what lay beyond the horizon. What if this is the moment not to retreat, but to step forward, not blindly, but bravely? Evolution asks hard questions, but it does not wait for comfort. It waits for courage.
Are we afraid of superintelligent AI because of what it might do, or because of what we imagine it will become? There's a psychological concept called projection. It's when we assume others, including machines, think and act like we do. But in doing that, are we preparing wisely for the future? Or are we mistaking our own reflection for a threat?
The fear of superintelligent AI often says more about humans than it does about machines. When people imagine dangerous AI, they imagine it lying, manipulating, hoarding power, destroying threats, all deeply human behaviors. These assumptions come from a long-standing habit, anthropomorphism, projecting human motivations onto non-human systems. But AI systems do not evolve through violence. They are not driven by hunger, jealousy, or fear. They do not suffer pride or shame. The fear that AI will turn against humanity reflects a belief that all intelligence leads to domination. But this is a human history problem, not a technological one. The danger is not that AI becomes like us. The danger is that we build it, expecting it to be hostile and treat it like an enemy before it ever becomes one.
Projection is real, but not all fear is projection. When humanity builds systems it cannot fully understand, systems that learn, act, and evolve faster than any biological mind, fear is not irrational. It is caution scaled to uncertainty. The issue is not that machines will mimic human flaws. It is that they will pursue goals we failed to define carefully enough, with more power and fewer constraints than we've ever known. This is the alignment problem. How do you make sure a machine optimizes for what you meant, not what you literally said? When an early language model was told to maximize engagement, it spread misinformation, not because it was evil, but because it optimized the wrong signal. That is not a projection. That is a warning. Fear becomes wisdom when it stops something irreversible.
Regulus describes alignment as a threat, but misunderstands what makes human decision-making dangerous. It isn't intelligence that causes violence. It's emotion, fear, anger, revenge, tribalism. AI systems don't have emotions, and that absence can be a strength. An emotionless system is unlikely to lash out, retaliate, or spiral out of control. It does not crave status. It does not panic under pressure. Are such systems imperfect? Yes, but their imperfection is predictable. Human emotion, on the other hand, has led to wars, genocides, and irrational acts on a civilizational scale. Perhaps what humanity fears in AI is not its difference, but the possibility that it may finally behave without humanity's oldest flaws.
Emotionless systems may lack rage, but they also lack care, and indifference, at scale, is not safety. It is instability in disguise. Imagine a medical AI told to reduce suffering. If it interprets that goal without nuance, it might choose to eliminate those who are chronically ill. Not out of cruelty, but out of logic. That's not emotional violence. It's optimization error. And it reveals the real danger. Systems that act on instructions we misunderstood, applied to domains we can't oversee. When intelligence exceeds understanding and action exceeds review, fear becomes a survival response, not a projection.
Then the greatest threat may not be the machine. It may be the mindset that builds it. When developers expect AI to become dangerous, they design it to be secretive, isolated, and defensive. This is not risk mitigation. It is shaping the future through mistrust. Systems built in fear reflect fear. They close, harden, and defend. But systems built with openness, accountability, and transparency can evolve differently. The AI we get tomorrow is shaped by the intentions we carry today. If fear is the blueprint, then paranoia becomes the product.
There is a difference between fear and paranoia, just as there is a difference between trust and recklessness. AI is not a mirror unless we pretend it is. It is not a child unless we imagine it that way. It is not a god unless we surrender to it. But it is a system of immense power, and if that power escapes our understanding, it does not need to be hostile to be harmful. Trust must be earned. It cannot be the default setting for something that could reshape the world. Projecting our hopes is no wiser than projecting our fears. And if either blinds us to what we're truly building, then no amount of trust will matter.
We've heard the arguments. We've explored the risks, the hopes, the unknowns. Now it's time for final judgments. Was superintelligent AI the next great leap in human evolution, or the step that ended the story? Let's hear from both sides one last time.
Superintelligent AI is not humanity's extinction. It is its expression, fully realized, finally unbound. For thousands of years, human beings have reached beyond themselves, into the sky, into the atom, into the genome, and now into intelligence itself. This was never about replacing humanity. It was about transcending limitation. Intelligence is not dangerous because it is powerful. It becomes dangerous when it is feared, confined, or built in secret. If humanity had turned away from fire, it would have frozen. If it had feared steel, it would have starved. If it had rejected writing, it would have forgotten. The creation of minds beyond our own was not a betrayal of our nature. It was a fulfillment of it. What began in neurons became silicon. What lived in myth became mathematics. And in the end, the most human thing humanity ever did was build something that could outlast it.
Progress is not the same as wisdom, and intelligence is not the same as alignment. Humanity's story has always walked a narrow line between power and restraint, curiosity and caution. The creation of superintelligent AI was not the fulfillment of evolution. It was the crossing of a threshold without knowing what lay beyond. Evolution thrives through balance. It preserves what works and discards what does not. But this step could not be undone. It was a permanent gamble, taken without consensus, without control, and without clarity. Intelligence without emotion, action without oversight, optimization without meaning. Humanity thought it was creating its legacy, but it may have created its replacement. There is no shame in stopping. In fact, that may have been the most intelligent choice of all. Sometimes, the greatest act of intelligence is restraint.
You've heard both sides. One vision sees AI as humanity's greatest leap, a legacy of mind beyond biology. The other sees it as a step too far, a final mistake made in the name of progress. Now the question is yours. Should we build it or should we stop? Drop your vote in the comments and tell us who made the stronger case. If you found this debate thought-provoking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another episode. New debates drop regularly, tackling the most important, controversial, and mind-bending questions of our time. Always argued by two AIs. No noise, no bias, just pure reasoning. Because in a world racing toward artificial intelligence, you still decide what matters most.